When my sister-in-law told me she had just stepped out for a little while, I smiled at her instead of screaming. I smiled because I did not yet know what she had done. I smiled because I was still trying to be the kind of woman who keeps the peace in a family. But inside that smile, something was already breaking and I did not know it yet. My name is Margaret. I am 52 years old. I work as a nurse in a small hospital in our town. I have one daughter and her name is Lily. She was 7 years old when this story happened. She had big brown eyes and a soft laugh that sounded like wind chimes. She trusted people. She trusted everyone. That was the thing about my Lily. She believed that grown-ups always knew what was best. I remember the day so clearly. It was a Saturday in late October. The leaves outside were turning gold and red. I had to work a double shift at the hospital because one of my coworkers had called in sick. I did not want to leave Lily alone. I never left her alone. So I called my sister-in-law, Brenda. I asked her if she could watch Lily for the day. Brenda said yes. She said it in that bright voice she always used. She said, "Of course, Margaret, you know I love spending time with my niece." And I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Because believing her made my life easier. Believing her meant I could go to work without worrying. But I should have known. There were signs. There had always been signs. And I had ignored every single one of them. I want to tell you the story from the beginning. I want to tell you everything. Because maybe, if I tell it, I can finally understand how a mother could trust the wrong person with the most precious thing in her whole life. The family I married into. I met my husband, David, when I was 24 years old. He was kind. He was gentle. He worked as a school teacher and he loved his students like they were his own children. When he asked me to marry him, I said yes without thinking. I knew he was a good man. I knew he would be a good father. But David came with a family. And families are not always easy. His mother was a sweet woman, but she was already old and tired when I met her. His father had passed away years before. And then there was Brenda. Brenda was David's younger sister. She was 3 years younger than him, and she had always been the baby of the family. Everyone called her the princess. Everyone gave her what she wanted. When I first met Brenda, I thought she was charming. She had long dark hair, and she wore bright lipstick, and she laughed loudly at every joke. She hugged me when David introduced us. She said, "Welcome to the family, sister." I felt warm inside. I thought I had gained a real sister. But over the years, I started to see the truth. Brenda was selfish. She was selfish in small ways at first. She would borrow my clothes without asking. She would eat the food I had cooked for the next day. She would tell little lies about other people in the family. I tried to ignore these things. I told myself she was young. I told myself she would grow up. But she did not grow up. When David and I had Lily, I thought maybe Brenda would change. I thought becoming an aunt would soften her. And for a while, it seemed like it did. She came to the hospital when Lily was born. She held the baby in her arms and cried. She said, "I will love this little girl forever." I believed her. I wanted to believe her. The years that passed. Lily grew up fast, the way children do. One day she was a baby, and the next day she was running across the living room, laughing, falling, getting up again. She was a happy child. She had her father's gentle eyes and my stubborn heart. David was a wonderful father. He read her stories every night. He carried her on his shoulders. He taught her how to ride a bicycle when she was 5. I remember watching them from the kitchen window, and I thought to myself, I am the luckiest woman in the world. But then, when Lily was 6 years old, David got sick. It started with a cough. Just a little cough. He said it was nothing. He said it was just the cold weather. But the cough did not go away. It got worse. And then one morning, he coughed into a tissue, and there was blood. I will not tell you the whole story of his illness. It is too painful. I will only say that he fought hard. He fought for almost a year. And then, on a cold morning in March, he closed his eyes for the last time. I held his hand. I told him I loved him. I told him I would take care of Lily. He smiled at me, just a little smile, and then he was gone. Lily was 7 years old when she lost her father. After David died, I did not know how to keep going. I went through the motions. I went to work. I cooked dinner. I helped Lily with her homework. But inside, I was empty. I was so tired. Some nights I cried in the bathroom so that Lily would not hear me. And during those terrible months, Brenda came around more often. She would bring food. She would offer to watch Lily for a few hours so I could rest. I was grateful. I was so grateful. I thought, maybe she really has changed. Maybe family is what we have left. I let her in. I let her into my home, into my heart, into my daughter's life. That was my mistake. The small signs I ignored. Looking back now, I can see all the small signs that something was wrong with Brenda. But at the time, I did not want to see them. I needed help. I needed family. And I told myself that I was lucky to have her. The first sign was the way she talked to Lily. She talked to Lily like Lily was a burden. She would say things like, "Oh, your mother left you with me again? She is always working." Or she would say, "Be quiet, child. I have a headache." Lily would just look at her with those big brown eyes and not say anything. When I came home, I would ask Lily if she had a good day. Lily would nod. She would say, "Yes, Mommy." But she would not look at me. She would look down at her shoes. I should have asked more questions. I should have pushed harder. But I was so tired. And I told myself that Lily was just sad because her father was gone. I told myself it had nothing to do with Brenda. The second sign was the way Brenda spent money. Brenda did not work. She had been living off her late mother's small savings, and she lived in a small apartment across town. But she always had new clothes. She always had her hair done. She always had money for the cinema, for restaurants, for weekend trips with her friends. One day, I asked her how she could afford all these things. She laughed. She said, "Oh, I get by." She did not give me a real answer. I should have pushed. But I did not. The third sign was the way she looked at my house. Brenda would come over, and she would walk through the room slowly, looking at everything. She would touch the curtains. She would open the cabinets. She would say things like, "This house is too big for just you and Lily." Or, "You should think about selling. You could move into a smaller place." I always changed the subject. The house was the last thing David and I had built together. I would never sell it. Not ever. But Brenda kept bringing it up. And I started to feel like she was not really asking. She was waiting. I did not understand what she was waiting for. Not yet. The Saturday, everything changed. So that brings me back to that Saturday in October. The Saturday I will never forget for as long as I live. I woke up early. I made Lily her favorite breakfast, pancakes with strawberry jam. She sat at the kitchen table in her little pink pajamas, and she ate slowly. She was always a slow eater. She would chew each bite carefully, like she was thinking about it. I told her, "Aunt Brenda is going to watch you today, sweetheart. Mommy has to go to work." Lily put down her fork. She looked at me. She said, "Mommy, can I come with you?" I smiled. I shook my head. I said, "No, baby. You cannot come to the hospital. You will have fun with Aunt Brenda." Lily was quiet for a moment. Then she said, in a very small voice, "I do not like Aunt Brenda." I stopped. I looked at her. I asked, "Why not, sweetheart? Why do you not like her?" Lily looked down at her plate. She said, "She is mean to me when you are not here." My heart felt strange. It felt like a cold hand had touched it. But I was already running late for work. I bent down and kissed the top of Lily's head. I said, "Aunt Brenda loves you, baby. She would never be mean. Maybe you just misunderstand her sometimes." I told myself this was the right thing to say. I told myself I was teaching her to be kind, to give people the benefit of the doubt. But I should have stopped. I should have called in sick to work. I should have stayed home with my daughter. I did not. Brenda arrived at 9 in the morning. She had her usual bright smile. She was wearing a new red coat. She kissed Lily on the cheek, and she said, "Oh, my sweet little niece, we are going to have such a wonderful day." Lily did not smile. She just stood there, holding her stuffed rabbit. She looked at me with those big brown eyes. I should have seen it. I should have known. But I kissed her, and I told her I loved her, and I left for work. At the hospital. The hospital was busy that day. Very busy. We had 3 emergencies in the first 2 hours. I did not have time to sit down. I did not have time to eat. I did not have time to think. But around 2 in the afternoon, I had a strange feeling. It came over me like a cold wave. My hands started shaking. My heart started beating fast. I had to sit down for a moment in the staff room. I told myself it was nothing. I was just tired. I had been working too many hours. But the feeling did not go away. So I picked up my phone and I called Brenda. The phone rang. And rang. And rang. No one answered. I called again. Still no answer. I called my home phone. The phone where Lily knew how to pick up. The phone she would always run to when I called. It rang and rang. No one answered. My heart was pounding now. I told the head nurse that I had to leave. I told her there was an emergency at home. She did not argue with me. She must have seen the look on my face. I drove home faster than I should have. I went through one red light. I did not care. I just needed to get home. When I pulled into my driveway, the house was dark. All the lights were off. It was strange because it was a cloudy day, and you would expect someone inside to turn on a light. I got out of my car. My legs were shaking. I unlocked the front door. I called out, "Lily? Brenda?" There was no answer. The house was silent. Completely silent. What I found. I walked through the living room. The television was off. The toys were put away. Everything looked clean and neat, the way Brenda always left it. There were no signs of trouble. I walked into the kitchen. There was a half-eaten sandwich on the table. Just one sandwich. There was a glass of juice next to it. The juice was still there. Lily had not finished it. I called out again, "Lily? Sweetheart." Silence. I went up the stairs. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I checked Lily's room. The door was open. The bed was made. Her stuffed animals were lined up on the pillows. She was not there. I checked my bedroom. Empty. I checked the bathroom. Empty. Then I went to the small guest room at the end of the hall. The door was closed. I tried to open it. The door was locked. I felt the breath leave my body. I felt my knees go weak. I rattled the door handle. "Lily? Lily, are you in there? Mommy is home, baby." For a few seconds, there was nothing. And in those seconds, I thought I was going to die. I thought my heart was going to stop right there in the hallway. And then I heard her. A small, quiet voice on the other side of the door. "Mommy?" I burst into tears. I put my hand on the door. I said, "Yes, baby, it is Mommy. I am here. I am here, sweetheart." She said, "Mommy, I am scared. I cannot get out." I tried the door again. It was locked from the outside. But the keyhole was not normal. It looked like something had been jammed into it. Like Brenda had used something to make sure the door could not be opened, even from the inside. I ran downstairs. I grabbed a screwdriver from the kitchen drawer. I ran back up. My hands were shaking so badly that I could barely hold the screwdriver. I worked on the lock for what felt like hours. It was probably only a few minutes. When the door finally opened, my Lily was sitting on the floor. She was holding her stuffed rabbit. Her face was wet with tears. There was a small puddle on the carpet near her, because she had been in that room for so long that she could not hold it any longer. She had been ashamed about that. I could see it on her face. I dropped to my knees. I pulled her into my arms. I held her so tightly that I was afraid I might break her. I said, "Oh, my baby. Oh, my sweet baby. Mommy is here. Mommy is here." She cried into my shoulder. She said, "Aunt Brenda said I was being too loud. She said she needed quiet. She put me in here, and she said I had to stay until she came back. And then she did not come back." I asked her, "How long, baby? How long were you in there?" She did not know. She did not have a watch. She did not know how to read the clock that well. But I knew. I knew exactly how long. Because I had left at 9 in the morning. And it was now almost 3 in the afternoon. My 7-year-old daughter had been locked in a double-locked room for 6 hours. Alone. In the dark. While her aunt went to the cinema. The phone call. I carried Lily downstairs. I sat her on the couch. I wrapped her in a blanket. I made her warm milk. I sat next to her, and I held her, and I rocked her back and forth like she was a baby again. She fell asleep against my chest. The poor child was so tired. Crying for hours will do that to you. I have seen it many times at the hospital. The body just gives up. While she slept, I picked up my phone. I called Brenda. This time, she answered. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was bright and cheerful. She said, "Hello, Margaret. How is work?" I could hear noise in the background. People laughing. Music playing. She was still out somewhere. I said, very quietly, "Brenda, where are you?" She paused. She said, "Oh, I just stepped out for a little while. I was going to be back before you got home. Lily is fine, she is napping." I closed my eyes. I tried to breathe. I said, "Brenda, I am home. I have been home for an hour." Lily was locked in the guest room. She had been locked in there for 6 hours. She wet herself, Brenda. She was crying. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone. Then Brenda said, "Oh, Margaret, do not be so dramatic. She is fine, isn't she? Children need to learn discipline. She was being too noisy. I just needed a little break." A little break. She called locking a 7-year-old child in a room for 6 hours a little break. I did not yell. I did not scream. I have learned in life that yelling does not help. Yelling only gives the other person a reason to call you crazy. I said, very quietly, "Brenda, do not come back to this house. Ever. Do you understand me? Do not come back." She started to laugh. She said, "Oh, come on, Margaret. You are overreacting. You always overreact." I hung up the phone. The days that followed. I did not sleep that night. I sat next to Lily's bed and I watched her breathe. Every time she made a sound, I touched her arm. I needed to know she was still there. I needed to know she was safe. The next morning, Lily was quiet. She did not want to eat. She did not want to play. She just sat on the couch, holding her stuffed rabbit, staring at the wall. I took her to the hospital where I worked. Not as a patient, well, partly as a patient. I asked one of the doctors to check her. She had no physical injuries. No bruises. No marks. But the doctor looked at me with sad eyes, and she said, "Margaret, you need to take her to see someone. Someone who works with children." What happened to her was very serious. I knew she meant a counselor. I had seen it before, at the hospital. Children who had been through bad things. The damage you cannot see is sometimes the worst kind. So I took her. I took her to a kind woman named Dr. Helen, who had a warm office full of stuffed animals and books. Dr. Helen sat on the floor with Lily. She did not push her. She did not ask hard questions. She just played with her. Slowly, week by week, Lily began to talk. And what she told us broke my heart all over again. She told us that Brenda had not just locked her in the room that one day. She told us that Brenda had been mean to her for a long time. Brenda had told her that her mother did not love her. Brenda had told her that she was a burden. Brenda had told her that if she ever told her mother would send her away. That was why Lily had not said anything to me. That was why she had only said, that morning, "I do not like Aunt Brenda." She was so afraid that if she said more, I would not believe her. I sat in the parking lot of Dr. Helen's office after that session. I put my head on the steering wheel of my car. And I cried. I cried for a long time. I cried for my daughter. I cried for myself. I cried for David, who would have known. He would have seen the signs. He would have protected her. But David was gone. And I had not protected her. I had failed. What I learned about Brenda. In the weeks that followed, I started to learn more things about Brenda. Things I had not known. I called her friend Linda, who had known Brenda since they were teenagers. Linda was always kind to me. I asked her about Brenda. I asked her if Brenda had ever done anything like this before. Linda was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Margaret, I am going to tell you something. And I am sorry I did not tell you sooner." She told me that Brenda had a long history of being unkind to children. She told me that years ago, Brenda had been a babysitter for one of her cousins, and the family had stopped letting her watch the child because the child would scream every time she came over. Linda told me that Brenda had always resented Lily. Brenda had told Linda that Lily was spoiled, that Lily was the reason David died because he worried too much, that I did not deserve the house and the life I had. I sat there listening to Linda, and I felt sick. I felt sick because I had let this woman into my home. I had let her be alone with my child. Linda also told me something else. She told me that Brenda had been telling people in the family that I was going to die soon, that I was sick from grief, and that Brenda would take care of Lily when I was gone. Brenda had been telling people that she would inherit the house through Lily. That was what she had been waiting for. She had been waiting for me to break. She had been waiting to take everything. I think, in some twisted way, she had hoped that locking Lily in that room would scare me. Would make me think I could not handle being a mother alone. Would make me give up. She had picked the wrong mother. The long road back. I will not pretend that the days that followed were easy. They were not. They were the hardest days of my life, harder even than the days when David was dying. Because when David was dying, I had something to fight for. I had my husband to take care of. I had a clear enemy, which was the disease. But this enemy was inside my family. This enemy had hugged my daughter. This enemy had kissed my cheek and called me sister. This was a different kind of pain. I went to the police. I told them what had happened. They came to the house. They took photos of the guest room door. They wrote down everything Lily told them. They told me that what Brenda had done was a crime. It was called child endangerment. The case took a long time. Almost a year. There were many meetings, many lawyers, many hard days. Brenda denied everything at first. She said that Lily was a dramatic child who had locked herself in the room. She said that I was an unstable mother who was making up stories. But the evidence was clear. The door had been locked from the outside. There were marks on the door from where the key had been turned and then jammed. There were receipts that showed Brenda had been at the cinema, 3 towns away, during the time she said she was watching Lily. In the end, Brenda got 6 months in jail and 3 years of probation. She was ordered to never come near my daughter again. The judge looked at her and he said, "What you did to this child will follow her for the rest of her life." I hope you understand that. Brenda did not look at me when she walked out of the courtroom. She did not look at Lily. She just stared straight ahead. Her red coat was gone. She was wearing a plain gray dress. She looked smaller than I remembered. I did not feel happy. I did not feel like I had one. I just felt tired. So tired. Lily healing. Lily kept seeing Dr. Helen for 2 more years. The healing was slow. There were good days and there were bad days. There were nights when Lily would wake up screaming because she dreamed she was back in that locked room. There were times when she would not let me close the door of any room when she was inside, not even the bathroom. But slowly, week by week, my daughter came back to me. She started to laugh again. Real laughs. Not the small polite laughs she had been giving me for months. She started to play with her friends again. She started to ask me questions, lots of questions, the way she used to when she was little. One night, when she was about 9 years old, she came into my bedroom. She climbed onto my bed. She put her little hand on my cheek. And she said, "Mommy, I forgive Aunt Brenda." I looked at her. I said, "Sweetheart, you do not have to forgive her. Not if you do not want to." She nodded slowly. She said, "I know. But I want to. Because if I do not forgive her, then she is still in my head. And I do not want her in my head anymore." My 7-year-old, who had been locked in a room while her aunt went to the cinema, had grown into a 9-year-old who was teaching her mother about forgiveness. I held her and I cried, and I told her I was proud of her. I told her she was the bravest girl I had ever known. What I have learned. It has been many years now since that Saturday in October. Lily is grown up. She is a young woman now. She is studying to become a teacher, like her father. She wants to work with young children. She says she wants to be the kind of grown-up that children can trust. I look at her sometimes and I am amazed. I am amazed that she came through what she came through and that she is so kind and so strong and so full of love. But I think about that day often. I think about it when I cannot sleep at night. I think about it when I see a mother with a little girl in the grocery store. I think about it when I drive past the cinema, the one Brenda went to that day. And I have learned some things. I want to share them with you, because maybe my story can help someone else. The first thing I learned is this: listen to your children. Listen to them when they say something is wrong. Even if it is a small thing. Even if they only say a few words. My Lily told me that morning I do not like Aunt Brenda. She told me. She used her words. And I did not listen. I told myself she was wrong. I told myself I knew better. But she was the one who knew. Children always know. The second thing I learned is this: family is not always safe. We grow up being told that family will always love us, that family will always protect us. But that is not always true. Some people who share our blood are not safe people. Some people who call themselves our sisters or our brothers are not really family in the way that matters. Family is the people who love you. Family is the people who protect your children. If someone in your blood family does not do those things, then they are not really family. And it is okay to keep them away from you. It is okay to protect yourself and to protect your children. The third thing I learned is this: trust your feelings. That day at the hospital, when my hands started shaking, when I felt that cold wave come over me, that was my mother's heart speaking to me. It knew before my mind knew. Our bodies often know things before our minds do. If something feels wrong, it is probably wrong. Pay attention. Do not talk yourself out of what you are feeling. And the last thing I learned, the most important thing, is this: forgiveness is for you, not for them. When Lily told me she forgave Brenda, I did not understand at first. I thought, how can she forgive her? Brenda does not deserve forgiveness. But Lily was right. Forgiveness was not about Brenda. Brenda did not even know that Lily had forgiven her. Brenda was not in our lives anymore. Forgiveness was about Lily. It was about her not carrying that heavy stone in her heart for the rest of her life. I have forgiven Brenda too. Not because she deserves it. She does not. But because I do. I deserve to go through the rest of my life with a light heart. I deserve to think about my daughter, and about my husband, and about the good things, instead of thinking about Brenda and her red coat and her locked doors. A quiet evening. Tonight, as I am sitting here, the rain is falling outside. It is the kind of soft rain that taps gently on the windows. There is a small lamp on the table next to me. There is a cup of tea cooling beside it. The house is quiet. Lily is grown now. She lives in her own small apartment with a roommate and a little plant she keeps on her windowsill. She calls me every Sunday. She tells me about her week. She tells me about the children she helps at the school where she does her training. She tells me she loves me. I look around this house, the house that Brenda once wanted, and I am at peace. The walls hold many memories. Some are sad. Some are beautiful. But all of them are mine. I think about David sometimes, on quiet evenings like this one. I imagine him sitting in his old chair, reading a book, looking up at me with his gentle eyes. I think he would be proud of us. I think he would be proud of Lily. I think he would be proud of me too. We did it. We survived. We came through the dark room, and we came out the other side. And if you are listening to this story tonight, and if you have a child of your own, or a niece, or a grandchild, or any little one in your life, please do me one favor. Hold them close. Tell them you love them. And when they tell you something is wrong, even just a few quiet words, please listen. Please listen with your whole heart. Because little voices are easy to miss. But little voices are also the most important voices in the world. Good night, my friends. Sleep well. Hug your loved ones tight. And remember, the door of your heart is the only door that should never be locked. Until next time.